first half of May has brought creeping instability and disharmony to the truth community. The source? QAnon. Discontent stems from a growing impatience on the progress of the deep state takedown and rejection of some of the information being released. This was only aggravated when Q took a brief swipe at certain members of the alternative media for allegedly profiteering off the information. This video piece interestingly precedes a previous video we produced celebrating the new momentum of the alleged takedown and the unsealing of 24,000 indictments. For now, it appears this may have stalled. Over the last week, some members in the truth-stroke alternative media made a 180-degree turn on QAnon and its information, tarring it as compromised disinformation, advising Q had been genuine, but now covert groups have taken over. As a result, division has seeped into the community. It's true, Q has always been an unknown entity, originating from the image board of 4chan. Eventually, Q's posts and research emigrated to 8chan. It was perceived to be less susceptible to attacks and censorship. Q has continued to disclose cryptic information covering the alleged covert war. No one truly understood the source of these disclosures. Most have considered it US military intelligence. Q has continued to cover the broad brushstrokes of what the mainstream would consider conspiracy theory. My own opinion is that everything is conspiracy. When individuals, factions, groups jockey for power, influence and wealth, they interact, react, counteract. The process of decoding their movements, figuring out reasons for their actions, creates a theory of conspiracy. In many ways, it has been frustrating. Key targeted individuals, John and Tony Podesta, Hillary Clinton, John McCain, Prince Al-Waleed of Saudi Arabia, are all still free. Last year there were reports Hillary Clinton and John McCain were wandering around wearing leg supports. People speculated they were positioned to hide GPS tracking tags. The leg supports are now nowhere to be seen. John Podesta was even featured recently on Ancient Aliens. Many predictions haven't come to pass. One example, the Storm, a military coup to initiate mass arrests, sending the US into lockdown with a naval armada parked in the Pacific to protect the US from bad actors during the transition of power. Was this just a pipe dream, fake hope, or did military intelligence realise people weren't ready for such a drastic action? If the majority purely rely on mainstream media for their news output, the coup would have looked like an attack on their freedom and may have created more harm than good. First and foremost, the current struggle is a battle for people's minds and perception. Every month, Q would push phrases like March Madness or April Showers, creating a sense of anticipation and excitement, but then nothing. But with recent disclosures of Alison Mack and Anthony Weiner's indictments, and a growing list of politicians not seeking re-election, is something slowly starting to roll out. There is the possibility this could still happen, but a revolution is never easy, especially against potential demonic forces. It's always been important to not completely rely on Q. He, she, they have limitations. It's been anonymous, supposedly non-partisan. Q has largely ignored the negative influence of the neocons, the Bush family, and the State of Israel. In the beginning, Q covered damning information concerning the Rothschilds. There is a profound, deep connection with this elite banking family and the State of Israel. On the 2nd November 1917, the British government issued official support on the creation of a Jewish home in Palestine after sending Second Lord Rothschild the Balfour Declaration. The State of Israel is heavily influential in the US political sphere and also heavily reliant on US funding. It's been estimated that over the next 10 years, the US will send Israel $38 billion in military aid. Due to past investment links, even Donald Trump himself isn't completely immune from the Rothschild influence. Trump's daughter Ivanka even previously dated Nathaniel Rothschild. Q has previously written, "Disinformation is necessary," so this could account for the blind spots and failure of past predictions. If indeed Q isn't a compromised agent, they realistically aren't going to broadcast their moves against the cabal. Yes, ultimately, Q may have been co-opted, or even act as a form of controlled opposition, but this same theory could also apply to the more established truth community members. Money is a corrupting force, disinformation is rife, threats against their lives and that of their families can occur, even mind control is a factor to consider. Revelations from journalist Curtis Waltman proved this. He filed a Freedom of Information Act for documentation on Antifa and white supremacist groups. He was accidentally sent information detailing remote mind control technology, which has existed since the 1970s. To consider technology that reads and broadcasts thoughts and was operational 40 years ago, imagine what exists today. Over the last few weeks, there have been reports and images showing QAnon being advertised on billboards in the US, with links to a website, doyouknowq.com. Is this a genuine, heartfelt attempt to spread the good word? Or is this connected to something less than positive? It's hard not to be overwhelmed by the complexity of the challenge, to really understand the true picture. Q has been reported in the mainstream. Unsurprisingly, the concept and information has been immediately ridiculed and dismissed. The movement has even been parodied on Comedy Central. Does this indicate that the information is a threat and genuine? Or is this a more sophisticated psyop to trick people into believing in a false hope? Some huge revelations have come out of Q, such as the connection with the Titanic sinking and the acquisition of the Federal Reserve by the Rothschilds, along with recent speculation that North Korea was in fact a puppet for the deep state, who was nearly framed for a nuclear false flag attack on Hawaii. Hence for the recent reunification talks with South Korea after realising they were being played by the cabal. There is also continuing speculation that elements within the Iranian political class, via bribes, allowed the production of nuclear weapons using Russian uranium to frame Russia in the future after a nuclear false flag attack. But it needs to be reiterated, this geopolitical decoding is purely only coming from Q's releases, one source, not multiple. It's important to mention that on reconsider.news, Q content has always guaranteed large volumes of traffic. This was especially the case over December and January. It felt strange at the time that social media wasn't censoring hashtags linked to Q content. Whether this was on purpose or not is hard to tell. The situation now is that most content in the independent media, including Q, is being suppressed on an industrial scale. My own personal view is that Q has been a real motivator, been a catalyst for a movement, and shown that true journalism and investigation is to be found on the internet, with no filters, preconceived ideas, a complex web of individuals decoding and researching the past, present, and future, producing an overall picture of the real world and its control mechanisms. It's all far removed from the sanitized mind prison that the mainstream would want you to believe. Although from the very start, Q reiterated, revolution is not right versus left, Democrat versus Republican. The force that Q discusses transcends all these simplistic titles. The deep state cabal infiltrates all facets of US political and civil life, and the majority of other countries around the world. This pervading controlling force has very deep roots within demonic, satanic energy. The current struggle can be perceived as a spiritual war. Early on, Q stated they need to maintain the information at 40,000 feet, the normal cruising altitude for passenger aircraft. Any higher, it gets really weird. The connections and origins of our world and history are potentially more bizarre and disturbing than we can ever imagine. Maintaining unity across the entire political and social spectrum is important. Don't allow divide and rule to subvert people. Disagree with each other, but calmly and without anger. These dark forces want anger. They actively seek infighting, chaos, division, hate. In a world where everyone thinks they're right, we need to reach out to each other in harmony. If we maintain unity, hopefully, we'll win bigly.